Hi there everyone, my name's Chris and I'm from PDOiler. Today on this video we'll be showing you how to install the Mark III oilers onto a bike. If you have any questions regarding anything you see within this video, then do drop us an email or comment in the comment box. Okay, so at this point we're going to take the seat off to expose the wires underneath so that we can find out where the timer will be going and to find out where we're going to fit the wiring loom as well. So we've got the timer just here. We've got number 1 to 9. Okay, this is the pump ratio. So number 1 being the longest, so after a pump it will wait the longest before pumping again. Number 9 being the fastest that it will go. Okay, so we find a space on the bike for here. We know where we're going to put it already. So it's going to go in this sort of region just here. So again, it's just finding the space in here. Don't cable tie anything, don't stick anything down to start off with. Just get it into a position that you're happy with. Find out where your cable is going to go after. So they're going to run down there. Again, don't really worry about the wires, but just know where they're going to go. So after we found the position, if we take that off, take that out of the way, put that down. The next bit to do is the wiring loom. So inside here you've got the fuse just in here. Obviously red is positive, black is negative. And then you're going to find where you're going to be putting it on the bike. Now we've already got a plug switch just here, so this actually connects to the rear light already, so that when you switch the bike on, you've got power. When you switch it off, it goes off. You do not want to be connecting it to the battery. If you do, then obviously it's going to be running all the time and oil is going to be everywhere. So you want to be connecting it to a source where you switch the ignition on, it comes on, switching it off, it goes off. On here, when it comes, all you'll have is one connecting to obviously go to the negative on the battery, and the other side is just a normal wire, again, to go to a positive somewhere on the bike, as long as it's an ignition switch. Again, find a space for this in your bike before attaching it to anything. Again, we know where it's going, but again, take a little time to find out where it's going on there, and make sure everything reaches to the spaces you want it to go. And again, it's just a case of then, when you're happy with that, connecting this bit first, and then we'll come on to that bit in a minute. Okay, so all we're going to do now is just loosen the negative one, just so that we can put the negative on the wiring loom to the negative on the battery. Just like that, okay? And again, do it back up and do it up tight enough so it's not going to come undone. Feed that through where you wanted it to go. So obviously, after you figured out where you're going to have the wiring, put it into place. And again, for us, the next bit is to connect connector on the end. For you, it may be connecting it somewhere totally different on the bike. Again, this is just an advice of where to put things if you want to, and how to connect everything up. Okay, so we've just connected the bullet on here, and that, again, that's just going to connect into our connection just there. I'm not going to push it straight in because obviously we need to connect everything else, and then when we're happy we'll connect that right in, then we'll start everything up. So the next bit to do will be fitting the timer. So I've got the timer just here. again, we've just gone through this with you, so again, just explains the what the numbers mean. And I said start it on 9, because when you start it up, it's going to be 10 times easier to see the light flash on with it on 9 already. Okay, so what we've done, you do have a pad provided. Okay, now we've put double-sided sticky tape on both sides of this so that we can stick it down to the surface. It doesn't come supplied like this for the main reason of, if you don't want to stick it somewhere, if you want to put it in a slot just down here, if this is already stuck to it, you're going to stick to everything. Okay, it comes just as a normal pad that you've seen at the start. We've just put double-sided sticky tape on so that actually doesn't move around, and it's all safe and secure in there. Okay. Now, the first thing before sticking anything down, you want to clean the area that you're going to use. Okay. So again, we're going to be putting it in here. So we'll clean this up. Best thing to use is brake cleaner on this one, because it evaporates and you're not going to leave any residue behind. So again, it's just a case of peeling off the double-sided sticky tape on one side and then sticking that to the back of the controller. Okay, just like that. Alright. What we recommend is putting the cables through. If you've got to put it through a tiny hole, then put the cables through to start off with, where you want it to go, and then take the other side off. There you go, and then stick that into place where you want it. Okay, so that's all stuck down. The cable side of things, I'm going to tuck them down in the crevice, in the gap just there. Again, with the wire situations, you don't want to go anywhere close to the exhaust where they're going to get hot or melt. You want to put them in a place where it's going to have air and it's not going to get hot. Okay, so we're just going to pass it straight through. Tuck them down in that gap just down there. Okay, so you obviously need to keep the one that's not being connected to the wiring loom out. That's the other one. And then this one that's getting connected, you can connect that in. Again, as I said, we haven't connected the wiring loom properly yet. Again, if you're connecting it directly to the light, then that's absolutely fine. So we're going to tuck that down in there so it's all neat and tidy. Okay, so I've brought you around this side just so you can see where I've positioned everything. Okay, so the timer's just here. Just underneath the cables, you can see just underneath there that it's all secured down, it's not going anywhere. The cables I've just put down in that crevice just down there, and as I said, I've kept this one out because we're going to be connecting that to the actual pump in a minute. The wiring loom is just here, and again it's connected to these connections that connect to the back light as well. So that is it for the top bit. So again, all you need to do is connect the timer and the wiring loom normally under the seat where it's not going to get soaking wet. Now you can, I know people have put them up by the handlebars, and you can do so. To be honest, you're not going to be changing the timer that much. So have it somewhere where you can get to, but you're not really going to see. Okay, for the next stage we're going to be fitting the wick system. It's a brush system, so when the chain whips, that's when it takes the oil. Okay, this is what makes us different from any other competitor. No one else does this. This is the best way that we've found for delivering the oil to the chain. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fit this on the outside of this single-sided swinging arm. The cable tie is going to go up underneath the chain guards at the top and at the bottom, and obviously going to hold it in position. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this into position, and then we're going to go through and talk about how far away from the sprocket it needs to be and how far away from the chain it needs to be as well. So we fitted the wick system to the single-sided swinging arm. We've gone under the top chain guard with the cable tie and gone under the bottom chain guard. Again, let the wick just dangle down towards the chain. Okay, so we're going to follow the instructions. So we've done number 1 already. We fitted that to the single-sided swinging arm. Make sure the direction of the chain is level with the direction of the wick as well. Number 2, it will be just using the collar, pull the collar up the feeding tube. Okay, and we're going to be cutting 75mm away from the rear sprocket and 20mm above. Okay, now all these measurements are with someone sat on the bike, so we're going to make compensations for that. So we're going to make it 25mm from the chain upwards. Now we've already cut ours, but all you've got to do, as I said, 25mm away, and then just snip the end of it. After you've done that, you're going to need to be pulling this one down over the end of the wick, and the little black collar you're going to need to be pushing upwards. So I've pulled this up. This is now the black bit, or the black collar is now on the end of the tube. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut 12mm from the end of the tube and just feather the end as well. Okay, so again, just measure 12mm away, or there or thereabouts, and then we're just going to cut that off. And again, just feather the end out, just like the brush. Okay, and then just, as I said, just between your fingers, just like that. Okay, so that's a good feathered end, like a brush, and again that just sits there and just dangles, not touching the chain. Okay, ready for when the chain whips. That's when it takes the oil. Okay, so it's not dripping on the chain, it's just taking the oil when it needs it. So the next stage is to find out where your tube is going. Okay, nice thing about ours, we've got a chain guard or a chain protector that goes here, so we can hide some of it just behind it. Okay, and then we're going to run it up all the way up to where the oiler is. Okay, so we're going to start that now. Okay, so we finished attaching the tube. Okay, and that's the green tube. We've put the chain plate back on. The tube goes all the way up, all the way underneath. So you can hide the tube quite nicely, even though it is bright green. You can hide it quite nicely, just behind the tube there. And then it's going to be up to where the oiler will be sitting. We tried it earlier and positioned it earlier, and then I said that's where it will sit. So that's where the tube is going. We've used a couple of clips, as you can see, probably just in there. There is a clip that's holding the tube on. Okay, we've also got another one just underneath that plate, just there as well. So we're going to fit the Mark III to the bike. Now on the Mark III, this is the new edition, so this has actually got the breather tube on this one. Okay, so you don't need to put the blue tube in anymore. Literally you just put the syringe on the end, pump the oil in. As long as that breather tube is upwards, okay, then the air is going to come out of there and the oil is going to go in. Okay, don't have it going downwards, otherwise the oil is going to come out the breather tube and you're going to get it everywhere. Okay, so it has to be face upwards with the writing upwards as well. That's normally the best indication. You're going to find a space that you found earlier on the bike to put your oiler, and then we're going to cable tie around both of these so that it secures that to the actual bike itself, and then we'll connect the tube after priming. So the cable and the tubes and everything just poke up inside where you want them to go. So you found the space earlier where you want them to go, and just poke them up there, and we'll deal with that all in a minute. So the fitment to the bike, now you'll have a pad in the pack that goes just on the top of the oiler and sits just like that. We have the cable ties around the outside of this as well and secures it all to the bike. It's always best to have two people do this. If you've only got yourself, then you can do it. It just takes that little bit more effort. And then just before you tighten it up properly, just position it where you want it. And where you want the cable ties, and then do them up. And then we'll come to the top and we'll show you where all the cables go. Okay, so from the top view, we've got the breather tube that's coming out from the top, that's above everything else, above the oiler. You've got the filler tube just there with the dipstick in as well, that's accessible to fill it. And then you've got the power cable that's there. Now the power cable will attach to the timer cable from what you left over and kept out, and then again just tuck everything back in neatly inside where you want everything to go. Now, so we've got this nice crevice just down here that we're going to put all the cables in, and it just tidies everything up. Now, so we've left this cable out for a reason, so we're not going to attach it just yet. We're going to make sure everything is connected, and then we'll attach this and we'll start everything up. What we're about to do, we're just about to prime the tube before connecting it to the oiler. This is paramount to do because the oil that will travel all the way down to the bottom. You'll see it come out the bottom of the tube, so obviously pull the wick up and you'll see it coming out the bottom in a minute. Now I've got someone that's helping me at the moment to just pump it through. So we're just pumping it all the way through, and as you can see at the bottom now, the oil is pouring out the end. Okay, so that is primed. Okay, so what you would do is when you get to this bit, you just cut it off to where you want, connect it to the oiler, obviously removing the cap or the protective cap off the nipple first. Okay, so this is when we switch everything on. We've connected to the power, and we're just about to switch the bike on. The bit to keep an eye on is the timer itself. Now the light won't come on straight away. It will come on its first pump. So depending on where you've got it set to, we always recommend setting it to 9 to start off with, so you see the light come on as soon as possible. Don't fill the oiler straight away, because you're going to need to hear a click to make sure everything is as it should be and working. And then we'll fill the oiler up in a minute. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll start the bike up and we'll wait. It's normally around about 20 30 seconds until that light comes on, and then when that's come on, we'll take you around the other side and we'll wait for the click. Okay, so we're turning the ignition on. Don't need to turn the bike on, just turn the ignition on. Okay, and again, it's just waiting for that light to come on. Now it will take forever, but it will come on, and it's just again just waiting for it to flash. There you go. So that's the flash there. Okay, and then I'm going to take you around the other side, and we're going to have a little look and hear for that click. So I've taken you around the other side. The oiler's here. The best thing to do is just to hold on to the oiler, because you'll hear it click. If you haven't got very good hearing, then you're going to feel it click as well. Okay, and again, this is before you fill it with oil. If you fill it with oil, you won't hear anything. Okay, so it's just clicked then, and it's just done another pump. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to switch everything off, fill it with oil, and then it's going to pump through. Right, so this is the time when we're going to fill the oiler up, and as I said, we've kept the filler tube at the top so it's accessible. So all you do is you hold on to the outside and you pull on the Mark III, you pull the dip tube out from inside. Okay, you're going to put this to one side for the minute. So what we've done, we've put some oil in at the moment. We don't want to fill it too high, because obviously what we want to do is check how much oil's in there. So again, just pop the dip tube back in, because again we don't want to fill it too high. So pop the dip tube back in the tube just there. Put your finger over the end of the hole and then pull outwards. Keep your finger over that end, and then you'll see how much oil's in there. So at the moment we've only got a very small amount in there, so we're going to keep on filling this up. Okay, so the last bit to do, we've kept this bit up so that we can see everything working. So all we're going to do now is we've switched the bike back on. We're going to wait for a bit, just to wait for this to drip. Okay, obviously when the wick's back down, it won't be dripping, it will just be filling up the end of the brush, so that when the chain actually does hit it, that's going to brush all the oil onto the chain. But all we want to do is just see the oil come out of the end, just to make sure everything is working as it should be. So that was the pump there, and as you can see the oil's got that little bit bigger on the end there. Okay, so all we do now is we just grab the end of the wick and just pull that down until the wick is straight, and that's that. That is all complete. So go back, just make sure everything is connected as it should be, and then put everything back together.